I need an intro, man. Hello. Welcome to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You have made it now with the adventures of a feral hippie who made it today and who was really on time. It's a-okay. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. We are listener supported, and any kind of extra that can come our way would be greatly actually helpful. The station owner has such a big heart, and there are some here who really have it to where they don't have a leg next to support themselves on, so we are also contributing to those kinds of factors. And it's like the Bundy Ranch and the other things that we've done here. We're trying to help make everybody know that there's more than just what's in their little box going on, or what they've been taught or trained to believe that is evident of fact or truth by somebody else's idea or law of how we are to assume that this is life creation. Well, a long time ago I knew it wasn't right, and I'm just so thankful at 56 I still know it's not right, and that I can at least have a voice to help clarify, classify, and resolve any of these conditions if warranted to be processed. I have a great word man on with me today. His name is Peter Kling, and there's no time that I don't want to stop and listen to what this man has to say, especially with the changes and stuff that are going on. And I know he works a few things in the background, and maybe he'll spill some beans. Wink, wink. Welcome, Peter.
Mona, it's a pleasure being on your show. Thank you.
Hi, honey. Yeah, the feral hippie. What do you think?
Hey, everybody needs a hobby.
Exactly, right? Oh, so has anything good busted out since the last time we spoke?
Well, I don't know what you would really quantify as good. I don't see a whole lot of good going on in the world. You know, some minor spots where individuals will stop their routine to help someone else in need. But overall, when we look at what's going on in the world, it's in a pile of chaos.
Yeah.
You know, we spent thousands of lives, American lives, and 10 years fighting a war that we we found we were fighting for no real reason in Iraq. Now, the first Gulf War, I think the world had a legitimate reason to go in and remove Saddam Hussein from Kuwait. You know, I could morally support that. But, you know, we went to war in Iraq based on weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. And we went to a war with Iraq because the World Trade Center was attacked along with the Pentagon and a jet that crashed in Pennsylvania, which was allegedly destined for the White House or the Capitol. I believe it was the Capitol. Considering the newscast that I remember from that morning, it's interesting that the first tell that 9/11 was a hoax was as I was driving into work. The first that they broke into the song that was music that was playing, and they said a jet just flew into the World Trade Center, and I'm thinking, my goodness. Well, there's three major airports and a minor airport right in that area. It's possible that a jet got off track and got out of the. They will actually use the Hudson River as a fly lane. So it's feasible, and I'm thinking, I'm thinking, wow. And then they come out and they say a second one crashed, and I'm thinking, this is the start of Armageddon. And while the world didn't come to an end in 2001, that's not what Armageddon's all about.
Right.
The world did significantly change. Now, what most people have no clue of is that the whole reason that 2000, that 9/11 in 2001 happened was because of the Taliban. Now, this is 100% true.
Well, yeah.
9/11 happened because of the Taliban. However, the Taliban was not responsible for flying jets into the World Trade Center or the Pentagon. As a matter of fact, go back and look at the original pictures of the impact of the Pentagon and then ask yourself where the wings of the jet went.
Mm-hmm. And why the rest of the building didn't, in big segment, collapse. That jet fuel is not tiny.
Yeah, and now here's even a better question. What was it a day or two before the 9/11 event happened? Donald Rumsfeld was sitting on the hot seat in Capitol Hill, and Congress wanted to know where $4.4 trillion vanished to. Now, do you know where the impact was at the Pentagon? It was in accounting. Yeah. The alleged impact on 9/11, or the impact on 9/11, it's not alleged. There was an impact, alleged jet or alleged attack on the Pentagon. They attacked accounting. How convenient.
Oh my gosh.
Now, the reason why I say that the Taliban really did cause 9/11 is for one simple reason. When you look at what was going on in Afghanistan for the previous 10 years, we pretty much watched Russia get their butts kicked throughout the 80s and the 90s. We were laughing here in the United States saying, ha ha ha, this is their Vietnam.
Aww.
And Senator Charlie Wilson, I believe it was actually called Charlie Wilson's War because he was the man.
That movie.
Yeah, so he got the whole thing spearheaded, got the CIA involved, and secured the poppy fields. It was never any cover up that this was a CIA war. This was openly talked about as the CIA was in there helping. Well, in 2001, Afghanistan, the Taliban ended all of the opium production in Afghanistan. Years and years and years of opium production suddenly halted, and there was no opium crop to speak of coming out of Afghanistan in 2001. And that is a problem because Afghanistan services 80% of the world's opium.
Right.
Now, we know the CIA's history in drug trafficking. As a matter of fact, I have a...
You? What?
I have
a... don't say it so.
I have a friend, a very good friend, who was in the military. Back in the 80s, and 80s and 90s actually, and he was a drug mule. He was an Army Ranger drug mule. Part of what he was doing under the CIA's command was loading transport planes in South America and then unloading them in America, filled with cocaine.
Right.
And it's not something he's proud of. Took him years before he even owned up to it and told me about it. And the only way that it's funny, I was reading one of David Icke's books, The Truth Shall Set You Free, and I was totally amazed by his book. It was like reading the nuts and bolts to Letters to Earth You Can Survive Armageddon. When I say nuts and bolts, the reason I say that is because when you get into the control of what's going on or who is controlling this planet, in that book, David really gets into several of the controlling agencies besides the CIA, MI5, MI6, the obvious ones. But he gets more into the government controlling agencies, the Council of what the heck?
Okay, but Peter, to me, all you're
not
trying to disgrade or anything, but it's just like going up to the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, essentially it is. But you see, once you get up to the top of the pyramid, what most people expect to find are a bunch of evil old men in a room sitting on huge stacks of gold and sacrificing children to a satanic god.
Okay, that's the illusion that's been created. I accept that. Okay, but not believe or deal to. Go ahead.
Well, that's pretty close to the truth. Unfortunately, it is. It goes beyond that because the satanic
Mm-hmm.
god isn't actually a satanic god. He is satanic. We do know him as Satan, which actually means slanderer.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know him as devil, which means deceiver.
Yeah, but
We
devil
also, we
backward
also,
is lived. You know that, right?
well, don't worry about that. We don't play things forward and backward here. We just go forward.
Oh, I like
Why
to
go
do
backwards
smart.
into time if you can't change anything? And a lot of people
Yeah,
say,
but
oh, well,
isn't
they're
any
working on that.
perspective, reality, alteration a change? Because isn't that what we're here to do? Is trying to re-help program, or not even program, but unprogram the body,
Unprogram. Exactly.
right?
When you opened your eyes this morning, change started to occur.
Right.
You came out of an alpha state and eventually wound up in a beta state and said, oh, I've got to do a radio show this morning. And so then you did whatever you needed to do in your beta state in order to prepare for your radio show. Now, that was a conscious choice. You decided to do that out of your own free will.
Right.
And you moved out of that sweet alpha theta state of dreaming or whatever you were doing just before you woke up to getting yourself awake, up and going, and up and at 'em. Now, here's the thing. That caused change in your life. It caused change in my life because I agreed to meet you here at this point in time.
Exactly. Birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. So, here's where we are. Whatever we do, we create change. Scientists will tell you you can't observe an anthill without causing change. Just the observation in itself creates change by the very fact that you're there. Well, how is that so? It could be the very energy we transmit from our body. Yes, we are transmitters, and yes, we are receivers. Now, when we get to this top of the heap, the Illuminati, which is actually the Council of 300, which comes down to the Council of 13, which comes down to the three,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually is three men who make the decisions that go on in this world. But they answer to a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
They answer to someone who is also titled or had the title of Covering Cherub of Eden. Yes. Covering Cherub of Eden. You'll find that in the book of Ezekiel. Now, why would this entity have the title of Covering Cherub of Eden? Must have been pretty important at one time, wasn't he?
So what's a cherub, though? Give me just an input in my mind so I can get it a little more straighter.
An interdimensional life form.
Okay, so it's not a good or bad, malevolent, I don't.
No, you see, and that's one of the whole problems with what's going on in this quote alien deception.
Right.
Number one, they're not really aliens as we understand, as we are understanding it. I love the stories. Oh, we got the Greys with us. First was the Greys and the reptilians, and then the Nordics came, and then the Palladians came, and then the Galactic Federation of Baloney came, and then the Galactic Council of Planets showed up. Why are all these aliens showing up at Earth in the 21st century? People say, oh, they've been here for a long time. Well, yeah, they have been. That's why there's a TV show called Ancient Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
They were worshipped as gods the first go-round.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. People have been totally misled with it by aliens. And there's no real good place that you could go to find out what's going on in the alien realm, except for one. That one place is got more information about what is happening off planet. It is a book that has been lied about. It is a book that has been disparaged. It is a book that has been claimed to be illegitimate and changed. It is the bestseller in the world. It's called the Bible.
Okay.
Scrape religion out of the Bible, and what you get is an extraterrestrial story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I learned as a child. I learned the extraterrestrial politics, the exopolitics behind what the information that was written in the scriptures. I'm going to ask one simple question.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm going to... who created us? You see, now everybody says, oh, well, we evolved. or God created us. And then when you go to the hardcore evangelical people, and no offense to anybody who, and their faith, but they believe that God created the everything in 6 days, less than a week. Now we're talking Earth weeks.
Right.
Even though it says in the book of Peter that a day to God is 1,000 years to man. Wait a
Huh.
minute. Yeah,
Right.
huh? One God day is equal to,
Well, it's
or I
an
should say,
hour.
actually, more exactly, one cosmic day
Mm-hmm.
is equal to 1,000 Earth years.
There you
And
go.
so now people say, "Oh, that's crazy." No, 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 no. Pay attention here.
Right.
Earth. The whole reason that we're here on Earth is because our three-dimensional world, height, depth, and width, are dependent on seven other dimensions that we can't even see.
Mm-hmm.
Seven spatial planes that are there. It's called string theory, which evolved into M theory, and then M theory turned into superstring theory.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we are told that uh, the whole universe is about 15 billion years old. Okay, Earth itself is about 4 or 5 billion years old. And there hasn't been any real life on this planet until about 500 million years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not exactly true. This Earth had cyanobacteria on it, and cyanobacteria, the first bacteria forms, the oldest bacterial forms that we can find. And now they're thinking that they may have been here for about 3 billion years.
Whoa.
Yeah, so 3 billion years of shake and bake before there was any real life on this planet.
Right.
You know, Are can I say that these are exact times? Well, gee, well, maybe we're off by 500 million. What's 500 million among a billion?
Right. When they're in creation's time, it's nothing.
Well, yeah, and you see now here's the thing: you go to Revelation, and Revelation, God or Yahweh, or more exact, Yahuwah is the correct pronunciation for the multiverse in which we live, or the soul of the multiverse. Uh, when we go back to the creation, the Big Bang, and we look at what M theory says, and M theory is the next step of string theory. String
Mm-hmm.
theory says that all matter, everything that we know, everything in existence vibrates based at the smallest particle level. It's like a string that vibrates, and it can either be a linear string, like a guitar string or a violin string, or it could be a round string, kind of like a rubber band,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll vibrate. And based on the speed of the vibration and the configuration of the string, it gives us everything in our known world,
Oh,
even
Peter, I just had the
photons.
strangest thought because that's how they program the computers is by O's and ones.
Exactly, it's binary. It's a two-digit language, on or off, truth or
Mm-hmm.
it's either go or stop.
Right. On and off. Mm-hmm.
And our brain works the same way. Our brain is a biological computer. Our brain is nothing more than a biological computer.
An
Gar-
assumer it is because it doesn't really have the facts, but it assumes it's been taught them.
Well, you see, that's us controlling the brain. The brain doesn't give the brain does not give a rat's hiney what you tell it or what you feed into it for it to believe.
Okay. Do you feel
Now,
that way for the rest of the physical being, though?
oh, you see, our physical being is just a vessel, kind of like your car, kind of like a
Right.
boat. The real being on who we are is found at the soul level.
Mm-hmm.
It's our consciousness and our life force.
Right.
Now, when you're awake, you're conscious. Yeah, you see the things around. Well, when you're asleep, you're conscious too,
Mm-hmm.
just not at the beta level. You're conscious either at alpha, theta, or delta. Now, you're really kind of unconscious because you're not in control of what's going on. You've given up all of your control at those levels, and you're along for the ride, basically.
Cool.
And your brain does different things during the night. It processes all the information, files stuff away. It entertains you. It plays little movies for you to watch. Sometimes it gets a message. Sometimes it receives a message and it shows you something you need to know. Sometimes you've been working on a problem, let's say an issue at work that you can't get through, and all of a sudden you get that aha moment while you're sleeping. Wow, what a great idea.
Exactly.
How many times have you woken up in the middle of the night saying, wow, what a fantastic idea, I got to remember this. And then you didn't write it down, you went back to sleep and you totally forgot it.
Oh, I do that during the day in my waking hours, honey. I don't have to be asleep to go there.
What was I just thinking of now? Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Exactly. It is actually amazing. But what I felt to figure for that question is I think it has a lot of our intent from our soul of how we re and condition our body by being
ah,
aware of those factors of the elementals that we have either to use or to use us, right?
okay, well, look, now let's go back. Let's go back to our earliest memories. What are some of the first things that our parents tell us? Well, they tell us Santa Claus is a real person.
Right.
They tell us the Easter Bunny exists, and there's really a tooth fairy. Damn it, the most important people in our life start lying to us right from the earliest age.
About bigger illusions, right?
Yeah, and what do? We carry on the lie. We tell our kids the same
Oh,
lies,
well,
even after we find out that it's a lie. Oh, well, it's a nice lie. It doesn't hurt anybody. Damn it, give your kids gifts and say, hey, this is from your mother and I, and do it from the earliest age, and leave Satan Claus out of the
yeah,
equation.
right.
You know, the man in the red suit.
Mm-hmm.
Only this one's fat, jolly. He doesn't have the pitchfork, and he doesn't live in hell. But somehow he still is supposed to jump out of the fireplace. Come on, stop lying to your kids.
And then the church wants to come in and say Harry Potter is wrong and and satanic and all this other stuff. And I'm like going, I feel more comfortable in Harry Potter, okay?
Well, you see, there's another situation with Harry Potter, and we'll get into that in a little bit more. But let's look at us first.
Okay.
You see, so here we come into this world, and by our first year, they start telling us lies.
Mm-hmm.
And every year, on some holiday, they tell us more lies. Halloween, they dress us up in funny-looking costumes, drag us out on the street so we can go door to door and get candy from strangers.
Mm-hmm.
And now what's the holiday? Well, it's it's interesting. Halloween is the most revered holy day in Druid law and
Right,
Druid
it's my
religion,
favorite. Mm-hmm.
and the Druids wouldn't give it up. So the church said, "Heck with it. We'll change the name. We'll call it All Saints Day,
I know.
and we'll adopt it." They did the why change the MO? They did the same thing with Christmas. Christmas was the celebration of Saturnalia. It was the celebration of Mithros. Mithros is known as the pagan Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Now people say, oh, well, there's been Christ all along. Yep. The first one, the first Christ and the first Madonna came out of Samaria, the cradle of civilization, right where the Anunnaki, off-planet interdimensional ETs, gave humans the idea of government and religion. Track religion back, and it takes you to where? The cradle of civilization, the plains of Mesopotamia, right back to the first king of the world, Nimrod. And the only thing the Bible says about him is that he was a mighty hunter in opposition to Yahweh. Okay. You have to look at the historical accounts.
Oh my god! I mean, it was just that nonchalant after what you just explained what occurred. That's interesting. How?
Yeah, it's interesting that that's pretty much all it says. Now, it does go on after that, and it talks about the Tower of Babel. And it says God hears about this, or Yahweh hears about this. He says they're all one language, and this is what they do. They gathered themselves together, and they're building this tower. Look, I'm going down. I'm going. Interesting. He said there's this one phrase which he says. He says, "Look, because they're all one language, now whatever they think they will surely accomplish."
Hmm. But how do we know if it was a spoken word, written word, or just being in the now kind of word? The harmony hum. You know what I mean?
Well, we know that the Tower of Babel existed based on historical writings from the first century historian Flavius Josephus, sorry. And he actually visited what was left of it, the ruins, and he recorded that the legend at that time was now the ruins of the tower would have been about 3,000 years old at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but he said that the legend was that at its height, it took a man a whole day to carry his brick to the top. And if a brick was broken along the way, it was lamented that it was great sorrow because a whole man day of work was lost.
Oh, I get half-hour breaks now. What a great surprise.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Welcome for the ride. We'll be back on the other side, y'all.
With the Anunnaki.
Oh, yeah. Mwah. Yes, we is hosting something around here, huh, Peter? It was a long break. I didn't realize we were going to have such a long break, but I am very thankful. Are you back with me, my man?
No, I left.
Oh, I mean, oh my gosh, but I love the promos. Mike does such a good job, and we are very varied of a station. That's why I'm happy to invite you.
Well, thank you.
So,
Back to the Anunnaki.
right.
So now, when we look at the text here, we have alien contact with humans. Right in cuneiform writing, it's recorded, it's chiseled on walls, it's carved into clay, and it's been preserved for years, right from Samaria. And
Uh-huh.
the archaeologists have been unearthing more and more information, so we're learning more about what this life form is basically about. And in the story of what they say is that the Anunnaki created us. They created us from lower life forms. Okay, interesting. Uh, I'm not even going to argue that because you go back to Genesis, and in the first chapter, God starts giving orders. He says, "Let the grasses grow, let the earth, let the oceans put forth swarms of life, let flying creatures appear in the heavens." He's given orders. Get your
Mm-hmm.
genetic engineering butts to work and start creating some variety of life. Here's the thing. Scientists cannot explain how the explosion of life started in the Cambrian era. You can say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah, well, bacteria existed for about 3 billion years, but they have no clue on where all the genetic information came from. There was more life on this planet during the Cambrian era than has ever been on this planet before. There
Hmm.
have been only extinction level events since
Right.
then. Now, you go to Genesis, the second chapter. This is for all you people who say, oh, the Bible is just a crock of crap. No, the religion's a crock of crap.
Right.
The Bible is an exopolitical book. Where do you think we got it from?
But you're talking about ones that weren't described and discrepanaried against by those who won the battle to be able to write it. Because there's many different varieties of Bible,
To
right?
the victor goes the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, there are several authors of the Bible. Well, I should say there's several writers of the Bible. The Bible is comprised of 66 books. Interesting number that the Council of Nicaea
Yeah,
added.
no doubt there, right?
Yeah, it makes you kind of scratch your head and wonder. But here's the thing: I was trained. People wouldn't believe who I was trained by. I was educated before I was 5 years old, and I was told two things. I was told throughout my whole educative life: uh, stay away from religion, and stay away from politics.
Mm-hmm.
But I was being taught the information within the scriptures. Well, isn't the Bible a religious book? Oddly enough, about 20 years ago, a relative of mine, one of my cousins over in Germany, did our family history, went and researched our family tree.
Mm-hmm.
As it turns out, I come from a long line of exposers of lies and teachers of the truth. My family can be linked back to the Reformation against the church.
Right. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what's wild about it.
So it
Uh,
depends on which carnation your avatar's in this time. Is that what it is, Peter? Uh-huh.
well,
Wink, wink.
here's the interesting thing. I could I confuse the one question I ask my own mother. And her only response is that, and every time I ask her this, we'll get into some sort of a, I respect my mom. I love my mom. She's one of the most brilliant people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing in my life. But we'll get into a pissing contest from time to time, and I'll raise this one question. You explain my life and why I'm still alive. And
Right.
she just hangs her head and shakes it, and she says, I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of ask that question too sometimes about the way that I hear your stories are, you know? Oh my goodness, Peter.
Well,
Yay!
if
That
you
you
want,
can conquer the third dimensional realm and say, I'm not going to lie down on this jump.
well, but here's the thing: the people who are responsible for my education are no longer on the planet. The first funeral that I went to, I think I was about 5 or 6 years old. I'm looking at this body in a box, and I'm being told this man was one of a special realm, and he is no longer. He's still alive, but he's only his body is dead. He now has a spiritual body, and he's one of the most powerful spiritual entities in existence. And
Huh.
and then I was explained. Then it was explained to me about the immortals. By the time I was 7 years old, I understood pretty much the whole off-planet hierarchy.
Right, that's what I wanted to make sure that you were discussing, not an third dimensional human explanation. You were getting etherically taught.
I was being taught I was being taught actually by the people who are considered to be the brothers of Christ, which started out as the 12 apostles. Well, the 11 faithful, then they added the 12th. And from there, it went to the 120 at Pentecost. From there, it went to the seven congregations of Asia Minor. From there, they disappeared,
Hmm.
vanished.
Well, maybe just another octave away. I mean, we all
Well,
are ascending in some realm or another, right?
it's not that they literally vanished off the earth, but what had happened is that the apostasy set in and the church took over. And so you had people being taught. Well, the Council of Nicaea was formed. They got all the holy books I'll be honest, I believe that the Council of Nicaea did their best when they compiled the biblical canon. Now let's go back to the biblical canon instead of getting off in where these folks went. They obviously showed their heads during the Reformation, because
Mm-hmm.
it was, but they didn't emerge as any religion. Anyway, they're all but a few. There's less than 2,000 of them left on the earth. They're all very old and frail, and I'm sure
Right.
the next situation is going to release them from their human bodies. Uh, one of the few messages that I have gotten directly from higher council. Everything is on a personal level. I get visions. I don't get messages. But
Right.
one day about, oh, 4 years ago, it was when the Galactic Federation of Light showed up. And I was researching the Galactic Federation of Light, and I'm like, my goodness, these guys are telling virtually the same thing that I wrote in Letters to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying they're telling us that they genetically engineered us, they brought us from lower life forms, and I'm like, how the heck am I going to combat this? Because I knew at my soul level it was a crock of crap. They didn't have any of the identifiers. And I thought, this is it. I'm going to pull my Facebook page. I'm going to yank my web page. I'm just going to shut down. The book is published. Let the world figure it out. I'm going to go live my life again.
Right.
I lamented this. I prayed about it for 3 weeks. I just waited and prayed. And in the meantime, I was just getting more angry with the Galactic Federation. And one afternoon, I was standing right in my bedroom, and I got hit like a bolting, bolt of lightning. A message came clearly right into my mind, and it was this: do not worry, the immortals are on their way.
Hmm.
It's time to pay attention to your personal life. And I was like, wow. It was Now you can read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and you will not find the word immortals.
Mm-hmm.
You will not find it in there. However, I knew exactly who they were.
Right.
And the last word that was spoken to me when I was 19, it was September 1975. I was at a meeting, and this was in Southern Appalachia, as a matter of fact, at the time, and a man had come down from New York, and he gave this fantastic talk about future events, and I was seeing for the first time super excellent slides of the universe
Mm-hmm.
and everything that was out there. This was before Hubble, but these were still really great pictures of what was out there. And at the end of his lecture, I had a few minutes to talk with him, and this man was in his 80s at the time, and he looked into my eyes and he said, "Your future is in the stars."
Aw.
And I didn't quite understand what he meant by that, but I do now. You see, they already knew there was just information that they couldn't release, that they couldn't tell us directly.
Right.
And now there's information I can't release. I can't tell
Well,
direct.
it's until
It's
you
not
get
time.
understand it, right? And then like
Well,
the
it's
inside DNA correlates to the truth. That's how I get the goose pimples, the tingling on the top of
yeah, it comes in at the soul level.
my
Now,
head. Mm-hmm.
now let's get back to the situation at hand. So now here's the thing. Okay, I'm fully armed now. Nothing changed. I got a message. Don't worry, the immortals are coming.
Mm-hmm.
I thought fantastic. So I had my own radio show at the time, Awake with Peter Kling, and I invited this woman on who claimed that she was channeling the Galactic Federation of Light.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, now that my position is secure, let's go on the attack. And I had her on, and I listened to everything that she was saying, and it was a 3-hour show, and I pretty much let her have reign of the show for about 2.5 hours. And I made one simple statement
Hmm.
that I was talking to her and picking her mind and so forth, and I made one simple statement. It was about the last 15 minutes of the show, and I said, well, this is all well and good, that the Galactic Federation of Light are here. There's lots of aliens that seem to be around now. I said, but there's one truth that is out there. I said, and that is that the immortals are coming, and every knee, both human and alien, will bend before the immortals. And her instant response was, "Oh, that is correct. You got that right. That is true." And every channeler from every little pissant alien nation from around whatever galactic empire they claim to be from that I've confronted and have said that to has agreed. And when they try to argue with me on my position, I guess what? Guess who taught me the scriptures? It was the immortals.
Mm-hmm.
Get over it. They don't need to channel. They left me a book and told me what to look for. And then they gave me an education in science so I can explain it scientifically.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I thought it
And
was.
you were one of the lucky ones to trust because I bet there was more who got in the need of fear instead of in the need of I want to know. So because your I want to know has helped
Well,
you.
they played me.
Well, don't we all get played, right?
They played me from the time I was a kid.
Well, so it's simple and easy. Okay, I got you.
Well, here's the interesting thing. You go back to the birth of Christ, and what do we find when we look at the account? Well, an interdimensional extraterrestrial by the name of Gabriel, who is also mentioned in the book of Daniel,
Mm-hmm.
comes before this young Jewish woman. No doubt she's probably still in her teens,
Right.
and he says to her, "Congratulations, my dear. Uh, you're carrying the child of God."
Mm-hmm.
Now, how many women today have you heard claim that they have been impregnated by alien life forms?
Right. I have a few friends that personally know or have given me this story. Right.
Yeah, I on late night in the Midlands. Well, I do Awake with I'm sorry, World Watches with Michael Vera, but it was actually on one of Michael Vera's shows that he had this woman as a guest, and she was all happy about the fact that aliens abducted her and impregnated her, and then came back and got the baby. Well, they took it out of her. She was abducted twice, so they impregnated her, got the fetus growing, and then removed the fetus.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? And who denied us to be able to work with T cells to help human beings since they already had the technology to multiply and clone things? It's just utterly like the cows too. I agree with it. And
Well, now you go back to Genesis, the second chapter, and you go to the 21st verse, and it reads like this. It says, God says it's not good that the man is alone. I'm going to make a helper for him. So he causes a sleep to come over the man. He opens the flesh and he removes a rib. And he closes the flesh and he takes the rib and he makes it into a woman. And he brings the woman before the man, and the man says, at last, this is flesh of my flesh and bone of my bones. This one was taken from man. I will call her woman. Now, the church will tell you that this is a holy mystery.
right.
Folks, if you still go to church today, and thank goodness that you do, at least you have faith. You may not have accurate knowledge, but at least you have faith to go to a center where God might be. However, it's time for accurate knowledge because the church will follow you. You see, our faith is within us. It's not within a building, and it's not within a man speaking in front of us. But you
Yes,
go to your
true.
minister, your priest, or your rabbi, and you open up the Bible to Genesis, the second chapter, and you read him that. Read him that, the 21st through the 23rd verses, and say, isn't this no longer a holy mystery? Isn't this a record of genetic engineering? And watch their jaws drop.
Oh, I always thought about when Jesus supposedly resurrected Lazarus. Is that who it was?
Yeah, it is.
It
And
was CPR. I
well,
apologize, but
actually, it wasn't, because if you read the account, one of Lazarus' sisters, I believe it's Martha, who says he must stink already. So he was a little bit beyond the CPR point. But now here's the thing.
can I interject a second?
Sure.
There's so many out of body experiences and ways that there is. I guess I shouldn't have had that hit before I asked this question. But anyway, um, that we can out of body through and with the other dimensions, and it looks like the body is dead here on this dimension because they only check a breath and not where the spirit is. Because usually they would put a dot on their forehead to tell anybody else who would know about the astral traveling that maybe the spirit's not home but the body is still there and that it's okay, they'll be back.
Well,
okay, I gotta mute. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to answer that question with my own experience. I had two experiences which were really interesting. The first one, I was actually in a coma. I was in Westchester County Hospital, and people go, well, I don't think the hospital will give you the records, but they're there. I was in Westchester County Hospital. I was in a coma. This is 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. And while in a coma, now when you're in a coma, you're actually in delta. Your brain is vibrating. Let me just go through this real quick. In a conscious state like we are right now, we are in beta. Beta is where the fight and flight response lives. It's what gets us through the traffic drive to work in the morning without alive. If you're not driving in beta, the rest of that's where accidents happen. You're either texting or you fell asleep. But here's the situation. Beta, we fight or we can run from it. That's where that response is. The next level, and the brain vibrates from 16 to somewhere in the 20s, 22, 24, 26 cycles per second, depending on how stressed we actually are. When we slow down and relax, have a cup of coffee maybe, meditate a little bit, daydream, pray, when we're with that other significant person that we like to be romantic with, we are generally in a state of alpha. The brain slows down to about somewhere between 12 to 12, 14 cycles, somewhere there, down to about 8 or 10 cycles a second. And we are in this very relaxed state. Now, from there, when we kind of fall asleep, we continue to go through the alpha state and into the theta state. Now, it's in theta where we start to dream in alpha, but it's in theta where we do most of our dreaming. And it's in theta also that the Farsight Institute does remote viewing. If you are having any sort of a remote viewing experience, you can be pretty sure that your brain is in theta at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The next level down from that is theta. Your brain is cycling less than 4 or less cycles per second. And it's either there or death. Now, it's in delta where you can have a out-of-body experience. And that's where that happens. That's where we go to higher planes. On the
Jeez,
other
that
side of the
went
commercial,
fast, didn't
we'll
it?
talk about that.
Time warps, man. Whoa. Be right back. All right, we made it back. Woohoo! Are these promos getting longer? Or is it just me? Are we in some kind of time warp? Peter, before we forget, would you do our audience a favor and let them know in case they want to have and see the copies of your books?
Absolutely. What I see, it's very simple. Go to peterkling.com, www.peterkling.com.
Right.
And
no forward slashes or anything? I mean,
yeah, no, just type in my name. Jesus, Google's got like about, I'm sure, 100 pages on by now.
Mm-hmm.
But just go find peterkling.com. You can order the PDF download off of my website for $5. If you're out of the country, if you make a donation, and you can make a donation whatever you choose to. I'm not going to discriminate for the listeners of this show. You can make a donation. I will send you a PDF copy for your donation, so you don't even have to say, "Oh, I want a book." Go make a donation, and I don't care whatever it is. For the listeners of this show, as long as it's done by the end of today, I will send you a PDF copy of Letters to Earth. If you want if you want a hard copy or a soft copy, you can also, or an e-copy for your Kindle or ebook, you can go to Amazon.com and order it there, or BarnesandNoble.com. I will also, for $19.95, I will send you a soft cover autographed copy shipped to your home. But that you have to order on my website. So,
boy, that's a lot of work, isn't it? Click here, click there. And it's supposed to have gotten easier, right? Telecommunications.
well, I'll tell you something. I've had a very interesting life, needless to say. But in my professional career, I went from working in a laboratory and dealing with chemicals and creating new and wonderful things for the world to from there, I went into telecommunications, sales, and marketing.
So alchemy to magic
communication.
tips. I see that.
Yeah. It's
the Wizard of Peter.
It's amazing that this stuff works. It's just pure smoke, mirrors, and magic.
It really is like life, isn't it? But we do need to know at least some of the roots or the basis so we feel secure enough to go ahead and stand up for ourselves. Because we haven't been doing that. Like what you were saying earlier about what we've been getting told, we keep getting told no. So every time we would think something, we were told to shut it off by no. So we've shut so much of this natural occurrences out. Yeah. You didn't have to do that. But most human beings, and I went and had to do that, I had to shut myself completely off. Otherwise, I was pushed out of. And I still am, but that's okay because I am now on.
That's okay. Half my family thinks I'm insane. The other half is sure of it.
Oh, there you go. You have 2 different parties to celebrate?
Every great mind in history has been thought to be crazy. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you the difference between being crazy and being insane. Crazy people usually know that their cheese is slid off the cracker a little bit. They're not exactly, They don't fall in line like everybody else. They don't conform. They don't put on the same gray suit. They don't get in the traffic jams. They go around life somehow.
Right.
And they because they figure it out. They use their intelligence to figure it out. And they thought Einstein was crazy. They thought a lot of people were crazy throughout history who proved to be some of the greatest minds. And there's a very fine line with the more intelligent one is, the greater to losing control of that intelligence is.
Uh-huh.
Because you can, the cheese can really slip off the cracker. But, life, we ignore life. We're taught to ignore life.
Right.
We're told lies from infancy. And then when we have something happen and we say, wow, I had this epiphany. And what do the people around you say? It's your imagination.
Exactly.
It's all in your mind. And then when the epiphany takes place, you stand there like an idiot, say, damn it, I knew this was going to happen.
Oh, I had the other adults in my childhood say, now, how did this happen? Because I warned them, and then how did this happen? It's like, oh, you... So I get your drift totally, Peter.
Yeah, so, now here's the thing. This happens more with kids. Why? Because kids are in a state of alpha all the time.
Right, the innocence of a child, the alpha.
Yeah. We don't get the beta operating system until we go through puberty. Yeah.
What a thought.
Now, that's just a matter of fact. That's why it's called the alpha state. Alpha is usually the first. Mm-hmm. Well, the experimentation, when they were doing experimentation on brainwaves, the first set of brainwaves they found were the alpha waves, and they were using a 12-year-old girl as their subject. She didn't have the beta operating equipment yet. That programming hasn't been wasn't put in yet.
Right.
Or through hormonal changes, right. Or turned on, yeah, pretty much. And so, if we could, here's the thing: if you could extract it, if you could turn the beta operating system off, we would have peace across the planet instantly.
But sometimes I think we need a little bit of the aggression to do the scrubbing for the baked on mess that we're dealing with.
Well,
not violently, but
Yeah, we could still get things done in alpha. We're just not going to be in that response of fighting.
Attack, right?
The attack mode. It's it's interesting. There's actually two of the, we'll call them event-changing science fiction programs. Star Trek by Gene Roddenberry and George Lucas's Star Wars tell more truth between the two of them than anything that ever came off of a church pulpit. But now, the one thing that is difficult for people to understand, because we've all been put into this state of denial. I'm going to go back to where we left off and go back to the beta system. Okay. Now, here I am. I'm sorry, not the beta, into Delta. Delta, I'm in Westchester County Hospital, in a coma, in Delta. And an entity comes to me and says to my consciousness, come with me. And instantly, I am watching. I leave the hospital and I'm at the home where my fiance is giving birth to our child. And I'm watching the birth of my child in real time.
Right, exactly.
In real time. Then, after the birth, I couldn't tell you the sex. I just saw the birth and that the child was born. And then I was back in my body, back at Westchester County Hospital. And I remember laying there feeling very happy and very content. Some hours later, can't say exactly how many, but I came to. And who do I see standing over me? It was my mother. And I said, Ma, go make a phone call. The baby was born. That woman gave me the most confused look. I mean, total confusion came up. The first words out of her son's mouth after he comes out of a coma are, "Go make a phone call. The baby was born." Well, she said, "Okay." You know, her expression changed, and she gave me a reassuring look and said, "Okay." And she went and she did it. And I closed my eyes and off I went again. And when I opened my eyes again, she was standing there and she said, "Congratulations, you have a son." I thought, there's the confirmation. Now, I got to see it. That was great. I had an out of body experience. I was there.
Exactly.
Who was it that said, "Come with me"?
Oh, well, great idea. Or, I mean, great question.
Yeah. Who was it that said, "Come with me"?
Well, but you didn't hesitate to go, did you?
No, instantly, boom, I was
So
there.
don't you think that your heart and soul would have known it was all right or not?
Like
Because
I
you
had
had a little more awakening.
like I
Because,
had a choice.
well, maybe not. But I've had those yeah, I've had those solitudes of invites around me when I was at my deepest end. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And
All of a sudden, you get that little message, and it's instant trust. It's
there
reassuring.
you go. That's what I mean. You had a trust to, yeah.
Yeah, and so now here's the other side. I've had very little contact in from the other side of the third dimension, from outside the third dimension. The contact that I have had is swift, in and out. Boom, gone. They don't stop to talk. They don't channel anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if I want to channel, I go into a state of alpha or down into theta, and I pray. I go back to the source.
Right.
I put myself right before the Father, right
Exactly.
before Yahweh. I bypass for the same reason that I don't turn around and find it necessary to put a minister between me and God.
I know, right?
Someone to tell me, "Oh, well, God told me to tell you." Why didn't God tell me directly? "Oh, well, you're a sinner." "But yeah, I saw you coming out of that horse house down the street."
Uh,
It's like, well, that's a crack house, isn't it?
yeah,
No, that was someone else you must have seen.
that's right. I have a twin.
Yeah, it was my brother. Uh, no good, whatever. Uh,
How many coffers did you pipe for that, right?
yeah, and that's just hitting it superficially, because if you really want to dig down
Oh,
into it,
please,
you
right?
go and you look at Kevin Annette's work, and you get into what's going on with the Circle of Nine, where they actually perform ritual child sacrifice to decide the next pope. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I'm really concerned about because people aren't really seeing that that is so much above the politics. And the
A half
politics
a
is
million children a year vanish.
exactly.
750, when I did the research into this, 750 million, 750,000 kids a year are kidnapped, are reported missing, kidnapped. They recover, they recover either dead or alive, about a quarter of a million of them, about
Yeah, but they got
250
a
of them.
new scheme and system for it because now they're teaching the children to tell on the parents when they don't get their way and then they get to go to a foster home. And who knows
Uh,
what happens after that?
exactly, if
Yeah.
if I was living my childhood now, my dad would be in jail serving time.
Well, twice me
and
for
and, and
that
I
as
would
well.
and I would either be living with my grandparents, which was a cool thing, which I did most of the time when I was young anyway, or
Right.
I'd be in a foster home if grandma and grandpa were dead or couldn't take care of me. You become a child of the system. That's it. You're gone. There's,
Exactly.
there's
And
no
I'm
love.
so
There's no
glad
love
my
in the system.
guardians were making it so that it didn't end up that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's bad enough we've got 50% of the families out there are single parent families,
Exactly.
and unfortunately, in most cases, not all, but in most cases, those parents are battling each other, and they use the kids as pawns.
Well, that's the alpha agenda, just like you were talking, because
Uh,
there's no peace, because it's rooted in the fire realm, and people don't realize they can move that. They don't
yeah,
want to step past it. They can't believe that they can take the top of their box off.
you got to, well, exactly. You got to start thinking outside the box. I'll tell you what usually starts that from happening. I've had a few of these events, but one in particular was quite interesting. I'm down. I feel like I've reached the bottom of the barrel. This is terrible. Life has absolutely gone insane on me. And so we tend to program ourselves with that type of thinking. Then all of a sudden, I found out what the dirt looked like under the barrel. And then I became an expert in the dirt under the barrel before I decided I had enough of this garbage.
Right, right, right.
Then I crawled out from under the barrel and started living my life again.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Well,
thing
welcome
is,
back.
yeah, this is a number of years ago. Thank you. Uh, um, it's our own perception and how we start to take the information, and then how we take that information and start creating our own futures again. We can
Exactly.
we can just beat ourselves up, just punish ourselves, get on the worst type of binges, pick up the worst kinds of habits, do what we can to destroy our lives, bring it right down to the point of suicide,
Right.
and or we can change everything around and take the next step and take control of our lives and say, yep, there's weeds in the garden, let's pull them out, and use your resources to do it. We are not in this alone. Now, here's where most people get it all screwed up. I'm going to go back to who are the genetic engineers? You see,
Really.
we have stories of Atlantis and we have stories of Lemuria, and you go to the Mayan stories of how we're in the fifth Bach tune of the creation of man, and the last one's kind of failed, and so the gods destroyed them and started over again. Well, whatever.
Hmm.
You look at what's written in the scriptures, and in the first chapter of Genesis, God says, and we will identify God here in a minute, but God says, let us make man in our image. Now, our physical likeness is nothing what God looks like. Our physical likeness is dictated by the earth, by this very planet.
The
If you,
environment. Right.
the environment, if you took a pregnant woman and transported her to the moon, and she gave birth to a child on the moon, and that child spent its life on the moon, because of the gravity changes and the environmental differences, it would have to be housed obviously inside, seeing as there's no atmosphere there. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that child would look nothing like a human by the time it reached adulthood.
Exactly.
It'd
I
probably be 18
agree.
feet tall.
Same with those inner Earth. Exactly.
And if you brought the child to Earth, the gravity impact would be so great the child would have to crawl around. It couldn't walk.
Right. Oh, yeah. There. Uh huh.
So our human form is dictated by the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
That's why they're
that,
finding giant skeletons because the planet has altered.
well, that and they could be the skeletons of the Nephilim
Well, but
because
still,
they
wouldn't
were
a different
giants.
environment?
Depending on their DNA.
Hmm.
You see, now here's the interesting thing. They've just recently found this out that human DNA, all that junk DNA they thought was there, no, and it's not junk.
Right.
You can take one human strand of DNA, one complete cell, and you can reproduce all life on this planet.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah. You want to do a genesis on another planet? All we need is a drop of blood.
Well, I think the spaceships are out there ready. Maybe that's what they've already been doing. But if they take the bad stuff, then we're on.
Ah.
I got to see all dimensions, Peter. I can't just look through or 11. I got to look at them all. It's all part of the same scheme, right?
Is it really so that all aliens are bad?
No, not at all.
Is
I
it really so that you
lived in.
cannot? Let me ask another question. Is it really so that you cannot eat from any of the trees of the garden?
Say that again.
Is it really so that you cannot eat from any of the trees of the garden?
I'm a caregiver. I'm not a care.
Uh, you see, this was the first lie that was told when we go into Genesis. You see, the
Right.
serpent finds Eve, and he asks her a question, a misguided question, and Eve says, "No, we can eat from every tree except for the tree of good and knowledge, because if we eat from the tree of good and knowledge, we're going to die." And the serpent says, "No, if you eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you'll become like God.
Okay, so now that
Ooh.
gets me to a point where you might know, because then that would pit family against family, like some kind of chivalry rivalry. So you know what I mean?
Well, you see, what Eve didn't understand is that she was already like God.
Hmm.
When you look at the creation of men, now the Anunnaki story is that they created man from lower life forms.
Okay.
Our genetic information says, hey, the information's here to recreate everything on the planet. Yeah,
Right.
well, they just kept on putting spokes in the wheel.
There
They
you
didn't
are.
reinvent the wheel. They just kept on plugging in more genetic information. That's why we share 98% of the same information with a chimpanzee and 7% of the same information with a daisy.
Exactly. But somebody forgot to put up a good firewall to leave the lie out.
Well, you see, the lie was introduced, and that's the problem. Now, if this tree actually did exist, I believe it had a virus in the fruit which erased our DNA.
Or a parasite who sucks off the idea that once you get awake, it gets you more asleep.
Well, one thing it definitely did do, besides, we ruin our DNA or it put a time bomb. We have these telomeres on our DNA now, which once the telomeres are gone, the DNA no longer reproduces correctly, fragments, unravels, and we die. Uh, but
Really, is a
whatever,
whole subline race?
yeah. Well, that's
Lovely.
why. That's why. No, that's why death occurs. Is that there's a little countdown timer on each strand of our DNA, and
Right.
when we reach zero, the DNA unravels, and that's it. It doesn't reproduce anymore, and we have system failure. But
Okay.
that's not the way that the body is designed. The way that the body is
Hmm.
designed is that from our brain to our literally, well, it takes 7 years for the body to completely rebuild itself, 10 years for the brain to completely rebuild itself and teach all the new brain cells what the old ones already know.
Right. Replicate. Go ahead.
So every 10 years, which interestingly enough is the human number for completeness or the earthly number for completeness, when you look in the scriptures, we are completely rebuilt inside and out. If
Hmm.
we had perfect DNA, that process would go on indefinitely.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you see, so now here we have a vessel which doesn't break down, which is meant to experience the third dimension.
Hmm.
What do humans like to
Something.
do? What do humans like to do more than anything else after they go through puberty?
I have too many thoughts going through my mind now, Peter. I can't answer that question.
Well, most of us like to get into a position of reproduction. Whether we actually
Well,
reproduce or
that was
not is
another one. Yeah.
another question. But that romantic side kicks in. We
Right.
get we get naked and we get into alpha state. We get out of the fight and flight.
And
We
then
go
we're
into
told
alpha
no.
state.
We're told no, and we're sinners, and we're wrong. How dare
Yeah.
you?
Oh, sex is a sin. Really? Then why did God say when He created the first humans? It says, "Let us create man in our image." Our soul is what is in God's image.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, our consciousness, our life force, what gives the vessel life and makes it animated. What lets us move around and experience the third dimension, things in the physical. Now, he said, let us create them in our, who's the our? Plural? Our? Yes, our,
Exactly.
plural. Image. What's the image? It is a spiritual image, an interdimensional image, one that keeps the body alive. It's not the body image, it's what's inside of us, our consciousness, our life force, our soul.
Exactly.
And he says, let us create a male and female. And he says, and so he creates a male and female, and he says, be fruitful, become many, and fill the earth. Now he says the same thing to Noah and his sons when they come out of the ark.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason why Yahweh was so upset with the Tower of Babel is because he told the people to spread around the world, to fill the earth. And what they were doing was gathering the people together in this huge city, building this huge tower.
Monolith, right.
And the whole reason for building the tower was to save the elite if God ever flooded the earth again. Seriously. It was actually, when you look at the historical record, it was actually Semiramis, the Holy Mother, the first Madonna, the goddess of the earth, moon, and stars, the murderer of her husband Nimrod, who was the god of the sun god, the first king of the earth. Yeah, she had murdered. She was actually a prostitute. You look at the historical event, she was an Erechite prostitute who Nimrod met coming back from one of his conquests. And I guess she screwed his brains out good enough for him to make her his queen.
Whoa.
And just like any good madam would do, she got rid of the John and she took over the kingdom.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like Avalon and a bunch of those other stories.
Really? It sounds more like the Vatican and what they do to the governments of the earth.
How
How about that? The Great Whore of Babylon. See how that all comes around?
Huh.
Now we're in Revelation.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, Revelation 17 and 19.
Huh.
And her name is Babylon the Great, a whore and a harlot. And she rides a scarlet-colored, seven-headed, 10-horned wild beast. One head for every world power since Egypt, Assyria, Babylonia, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and the Anglo-American world power. 10 seats of power, 10 kingdoms in those 7 world powers. And she rides this, the great whore of Babylon, the killer of the prophets. How many people were burned at the stake for reading the Bible?
Oh my gosh. Is that Lilith on top of it? We'll be right back, honey. Welcome back, welcome back. We have been taken on a magic carpet ride from DNA alteration to talking to trees and listening to reptiles, all the way to where we are today. The Tower of Babel. I never did get that as any kind of linguistics unless I see the tower that's leaning and then I'm going, wait a minute, why are we making such a big thing out of these buildings? So really, is it a building of a formula or is it a physical building that you think is being used here?
Oh, the Tower of Babel was a physical building. And when the languages were confused, interesting, this is where the invention of sign language began as well.
Neat.
Where the languages were confused and the account, both the historical and the biblical account say pretty much the same thing. The biblical account says that they slowly left off building and they dispersed around the world. Now, here's an interesting thing. There's the passage which I mentioned prior to the confusing of the languages. God says, or Yahweh says, that because they speak all one language, there's nothing that they can't do. Whatever they can think of, they can certainly accomplish. The whole earth speaks one language again. It's binary. So whether you're Chinese or whether you speak English, if you have a computer, you can take what I say and translate it into Chinese, whatever Mandarin or Cantonese, whatever dialect, and you could read what I write.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, so the whole world speaks one language again. Technology over the past 100 years has leapfrogged over anything we've seen in the past just since eternity.
Right. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, you know.
I mean, both sides.
Especially in the arena of war and killing.
Oh, now.
We have weaponry which can destroy the planet.
I know.
At the height of the Cold War, there were over 75,000 nuclear warheads. How many cities do you want to blow up?
Can I ask you a question just because that kind of popped into my head when you said we can blow up a planet? Do you believe that asteroid belt between, I think it's Mars and us or something, that is actually a blown up sphere that was once in our dialogue of planetary?
It could be. Some people speculate that it is. Other scientists don't necessarily go down that route, and they say it's just debris that wasn't sucked up into a planet.
Oh, well, come on.
You
Okay.
know, either it was a planet at one time, or it's not yet a planet.
Well, I went through the Pallades books, okay, as well as a bunch of other ones like Claire Prophet and Germain and all the rest of them, okay. And for what was given to me at one time for what I was reading is that some idiots did the same thing to that planet that they're doing to here, and that there is the capability of being dips and pushing the button. Okay? Now, are those the Anunnakis? Who would be under that who would
Well,
be
you're
under that power of control to manipulate the planet to where it is today?
recovering cherub of Eden. Better known as Lucifer, better known as Satan, better known as the devil, also known as the leader of the Galactic Federation of Light.
So there's
Now,
oh, see,
they have this planet. What most people don't understand is that they've had this planet slated for destruction because they're losing the war. That's why we Technology has leapfrogged so much since the end since World War II, World War One actually. World
Mhm.
War One set up for World War Two, but since World War Two, now what happened? Oh yeah, let's see. You go back and you start getting stories of aliens prior to and during and certainly after World War Two. How is that? Where do you think all the technology is coming from? You have
Right.
whistleblowers that come out of the arena saying that aliens are giving us advanced technology. Uh, oh, what was Bob Jones?
Hmm.
Shucks, you listen to some of the things that he says. And I just watched an interview with him that was published a week or so ago, and he said that these life forms have technology that we can't even imagine yet.
Well, sure.
Of course they do. They've been around since probably before the third dimension was created, before the Big Bang.
Exactly. Inner Earth and
We can't.
interdimensional.
We count things in Earth years and expect God to react to Earth years.
It's funny. You're
Yeah,
right.
we do,
Eric.
and and what we don't. So arrogant, so arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, why hasn't it happened already? If God's going to do something, it hasn't played out yet. Now, here's the interesting thing. We
Can I
made a
say something? I know you can hold that thought.
sure.
We built it. We built this matrix upon the lie, the lies, the deceit, thinking that we should have the pain because we're bad children. That's. Why and should we have the power and the resources to cut that crap right out? I mean, literally, like one big epiphany for the planet of who is deserving enough to know better the difference.
Stop teaching your kids about Santa Claus is the very first thing, and start
All right,
teaching them.
that too. I was looking a little more etheric, but that's okay.
Stop teaching your kids lies from birth. I don't know what else to say.
Okay.
That's where it starts. Something I did with when I had kids, and I don't want to go down this particular path right now,
Mm-hmm.
but I learned neurolinguistic programming, the study of speech,
Mm-hmm.
and how we naturally have this negative speech. Johnny, don't do that. Johnny, stop that. There's a
Exactly.
difference.
Demanding.
Yeah. Now, when you say don't, I'm going to give you a good example. Mona,
Mm-hmm.
don't think of the color red. Well, you just had to think of the color red in order not to think of the color red.
No, I saw yellow and orange, honey. I didn't see
Good for
red.
you. Then you already know that. You could think of that. But as soon as you hear red, as soon as the brain hears red, it's like, okay, red's on. Now you have to purposely override that.
Oh, yeah,
Say,
right. I gave my children the permission to, I would ask them, why are you touching that? I never told them no because I got the drift a long time ago. But you're correct. We have to unprogram the no.
yeah, and so what I would do is, uh, instead of saying no, I would say stop, leave it
Mm-hmm.
alone,
Mm-hmm.
or I would say you're not allowed to play with that.
But even the not allowed. It
Yeah,
was a whole menagerie, wasn't it? Because we didn't want to do that to our kids.
Well, and this isn't being now. You have to balance it out because you just taking a child away from something, especially at an early age, they have a tendency to cry a lot.
You know,
So
that's a
so so don't
Freudian
so
thing,
don't just
isn't
don't
it?
just take them away. Give them something else positive to do.
Right,
Don't just
redirect the energies, right.
exactly exactly. It's like
At any
it's
time,
funny.
everyone.
Go, you want to learn how to raise your kids? Go watch The Dog Whisperer.
Yeah, right. Now,
No,
I wanted
seriously.
my kids to do something, I would tell them not to do it, okay? Just because I understood the Freudian ideology of, go ahead and tell them no, and then they're going to want to do it behind your back. You know what I mean?
Well, it's one thing to yeah. There is
Depends on their
that
age,
end of it.
okay?
There is that end of it, but or you can create discontentment and let them figure out how to get out of it. Either one will work.
Right.
It's using negative reinforcement as opposed to positive reinforcement.
But don't
You
you
know,
feel like you're doing that now with adults, and that adults are just the children who now need the help of,
well, yeah, and you see, we have to do both. You
right.
see, if people aren't awake to the fact that this world is in deep trouble, and we didn't even talk Fukushima.
Mm-hmm. Oh, please, right.
I was just going to bring it to this point. Now, I made this point with the about Babylon the Great or
Mhm.
Babylon, and then making the correlation to Revelation the 17th. This wild beast that it rides, an eighth king springs from it, a new world order, and its sole focus is to destroy the harlot, to make her naked, expose her, eat up her fleshy parts, devour the gold, and to burn the rest with fire. Forget she ever existed. And that's what their plan is. But right now, the Pope has been calling for the end of the debt system for the last year. He is calling for a redistribution of wealth.
No.
So, and he's going to get his way.
I,
Watch.
I don't doubt it. It's all in the
Oh,
Matrix, right?
well, here's the thing. For the very first time ever, we've got a Jesuit pope that's head of the church. Not that Jesuits haven't been controlling it, but he's cleaning out the Vatican Bank, getting all the banksters out. He just turned around and excommunicated all of the mafia. I was wondering if that also includes the banksters. You got to think about it. He's replaced. He keeps on cleaning out more and more staff out of the Vatican Bank. Once he gets that straightened out, the doors will be totally open, and he'll say, "Hey, there's no corruption here. It's the only bank on the face of the earth that isn't corrupt." And all in at the same time, uh, from what I understand, the Jesuits are controlling the banking system for the BRICS countries. The BRICS countries is Russia, China, India, and South Africa. I'm sorry, Brazil and South Africa. Brazil is the lead country. Brazil, India, whatever. Brazil, Russia.
Okay.
They're all there.
Hmm.
But there's also about 35 member countries of BRICS, and they all have their own financial currency that they're going to be using, and they are all respecting each other's currencies and avoiding using the dollar, the petrodollar. And Russia's just put together the biggest gas deal in history with China during
Right.
all this Ukrainian nonsense that's going on and shipping gas to Europe. They put together a $400 billion gas deal with China,
Hmm.
and that's just
The
methane.
tip of it, right?
Yeah, they put together an oil deal. It'll be 2 years ago, this coming September, which bypassed the petrodollar. Pretty much, Russia is shipping all the capacity that they could possibly produce out of Siberia down into China, and China has the right to resell any and all oil or petroleum products.
Okay.
And they're not using the petrodollar. They're using
Well,
the yuan. It was the first deal ever to be cut outside of using the petrodollar. It
it's
was the
been
first
almost
crack
a
in the wall.
righteous setup, though, hadn't it?
Absolutely. And you see, here's where it all comes back together. We're going to watch a new world order come to power. Well, first we're going to watch the collapse of the dollar, and we're going to be in a lot of economic hardship. So be prepared.
It's
If you're not,
happening
if you're,
already. You
yeah,
know.
absolutely, it's happening already. Just go to the grocery store.
No, thank you. I don't have a ride. No, go.
But anyway, every time you go, the prices go higher.
I know. And not by cents, but by dollars.
Yeah, it's like depending on where you are, it's like really, seriously, just
Hmm.
hit the farmers market. Is support the little guy.
I know.
Get out of the chains. Buy all the farmers' groceries. At least somebody is going to be able to keep their farm another season.
Yeah, support the neighbors, not the commercialism.
Yeah, you need tomatoes. The guy down the road who's got a roadside stand's got some great tomatoes. I promise you.
Hmm.
Whatever the case might be, support the local growers. Stop and take the effort and stop and go get some groceries from the people who are growing them more than likely organically.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and hey, put a couple of pennies in somebody else's pocket. That's how we all get by. Barter, trade, sell, whatever. And it's helping the little guy. That's how this radio station stays alive.
Exactly, it is.
And here's where it all comes about. I wish we had anher hour to talk about
I
this.
know. I thought about that the last hour.
Uh, but it's all coming about back because remember we started this. We were talking about who the genetic engineers. There's two different stories. We got one from the scriptures and one from the Anunnaki, and now we got all these aliens around planet Earth from every corner of the galaxy. Why? Well, when you read what is going on in the scriptures, there was a revolution, a revolt, and planet Earth was captured by probably the genetic engineers,
Hmm.
the satanic forces who have brainwashed, who gave these maniacal rulers the idea that they have the divine right to rule over us, and so it all comes down to this one simple thing: sun worship. It all comes down to worshiping the sun, the holy mother, and the holy child. You see, after Nimrod was killed or
Okay.
murdered, Syriamis became pregnant, and she claimed it was Nimrod incarnate, making herself the first Madonna. And
I
she
would
gave birth
consider
to the
the
Holy
Earth
Child.
herself the first Madonna. Pardon me.
I'm sorry?
I believe Mother is the first.
Well, Mother Earth, yeah, if you want to go there. But I mean,
I do go there, and I just did.
but you see, that story is carried on. You look, who's the holy entity of the Catholic Church? It's the Holy Mother. Look at the symbol of Zionism,
Okay.
modern day Judaism. The Star of David? No. It's the Star of Molech, the Star of Set, the Star of Nimrod. It's a sun symbol. The Star of Ra, six-sided star, 6.6 pyramid, 666. Yes. Look at Islam, the crescent moon and the five-sided star.
Couldn't that be the fall that actually was like the bitten part of the apple to change the consciousness in the tree of life?
No, they are three individual parts of extraterrestrials that are trying to control what is going on this planet.
Oh, so you're talking somebody got into the petri dish and was playing around.
Well, according to the Anunnaki, they did. And
Okay.
when you look at Genesis, the third chapter,
Hmm.
verse 15, this is after the human DNA was destroyed, and God says to the serpent, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed, your genetic line, and her genetic line."
Hmm.
Her seed. So
Oh, sh-
there are two different seeds, two different genetic lines. Now, it's no secret that the rulers of this maniacal world have been keeping their genetic line as pure as possible. They have
hmm.
been in a breeding program for hundreds and thousands of years. Fathers breeding daughters, daughters breeding fathers, cousins breeding cousins. It's a law. They can't breed outside their family to keep
Uh,
their reptilian line strong.
that's called incest, right?
Yeah, hey, keep it in the family. What can I say?
I
Don't let that line escape. The problem is after basically 4,500 years of prima nocta and crossbreeding, the
mhm.
vast majority of the planet is pretty much 50-50. However, there are those who are of the woman's seed who are more genetically dominated by the woman's seed who say, hey, wait a minute. I'm willing to go the extra step to help somebody. I do love the Creator. I do know there's more beyond this lie. I am somewhat awake. I'm looking for answers. Where can I find them?
Mm-hmm.
Letters to Earth. Yes, you can't survive Armageddon.
Yeah, I believe it. Can you give me a quick definition of what Armageddon means?
Armageddon. Here's an interesting thing. You look at what's written in the Bible. You go to the next chapter, the Exodus.
Mm-hmm.
Now, interesting. There's a captive people, God's people, held essentially captive and in enslavement by the Egyptians, the first world power.
Okay.
And Moses comes before Pharaoh with Aaron, and he says, Yahweh says, let my people go. And Pharaoh says, who is this Yahweh that I should let his people go?
Right.
Now, Pharaoh knew who Ra was. He knew who Isis was. He knew who Horus was. He knew who Set was. He knew all the Egyptian gods, but he didn't know Yahweh. So now the contest was on.
Whoa.
Now, when you look at the events, you got to get to the ninth plague. And the ninth plague, the sun goes out for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
All of Egypt is put into darkness. And after that, you get the 10th plague. The angel of death, the destroyer rides, kills the firstborn of all. Pharaoh finally lets the Israelites go. The nation of Israel leaves Egypt, and it is shaded by a cloud during the day that follows them, or that they follow.
Well, we gotta get back
a
into this
cloud?
Peter Kling, I love you, and I thank you so very much. I love this story.
Hey, we'll cover it again.
I think it's a deal.
Can't survive Armageddon. www.peterkling.com. Download the PDF for $5 today.
There you are. Peace.
Because you can't survive Armageddon. Love and blessings to all. Have a great day.
Yes, conquer the now for the future. Later.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.
I have worked with the CIA, NSA, Templars, and Bilderbergers. Now I work for you. My show will disclose secrets, science, and esoteric knowledge. Join me, Stephen D. Kelly, for 2 hours every Thursday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time on freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio, Studio A. You can also listen to previous shows by going to youtube.com/Free Revolution Radio.
Would be me, Wild Bill Samsel, your host of the Samsel Report. Join me for Wild Bill's Headline Roundup every Saturday night, right here on Revolution Radio.
What do you think it is? I don't know. Whatever it is.
Welcome. Now, dare more, gentlemen.
Join me, Joe Kiernan, and Dr. J every Sunday from 10 p.m. Eastern to midnight for Researchers on a Mission Radio. We will be interviewing guests in ufology, experts on the paranormal, and stories from you, the listener. Every Sunday, 10 p.m. in Studio B. Join us for some amazing conversations and edge-of-your-seat true thrillers.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Studio B, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday nights. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Hello, Mike.
Good morning.